Hello, welcome back to Xperienced TV. So here's the second episode, and today I'm building the first proper version of the Home Web Security Lab. Excuse me. The idea is going to be simple. I want to have one machine to act as a workstation and one machine to act as a target. So this will be a safe environment where I can start learning how web applications can be attacked, how to spot vulnerabilities, and start poking at things without poking at things that I shouldn't be poking at. Lots of poking going on there. So the goal for this version is pretty simple. The NUC is going to become the workstation, and the Raspberry Pi 4 is going to become the local target. So if I can get traffic flying between the two and start inspecting it properly, that's lab version 1. Well, since my background is in web development, this kind of feels like the next logical step. So I want somewhere to inspect traffic, test things, break things safely, and start understanding how vulnerabilities actually happen in real-life web applications. Because let's face it, if I'm building things myself, especially things that I might eventually put online or charge money for, and I've got a couple of things in the pipeline, I'd much rather understand the risks now before I put them out and learn about them the hard way. First job is setting up the workstation. So for that, I'm going to download Kali Linux for the NUC and create a bootable installer USB using Balena Etcher. So go to Kali Linux website. The links for all of these are in the description if you need a website to go to. And make sure that you get the one that is most suitable. For this one, you can see which one I'm downloading here. You can either download it directly in the browser or through a torrent. I've downloaded both. Don't seem to be any difference. You can also use the MD5 checksum to make sure that you've got the correct version. And downloading Balena Etcher. Now, I downloaded the latest from their website, and then I had a problem where for some weird reason, when I tried to load the Kali Linux ISO, it wouldn't do it. It wouldn't let me do it. It came up with this error message. So having a little hunt around, I found that there is a known problem for some Windows machines. And I downloaded version, I think it was 1.18.11 from the GitHub. So if you go to their GitHub and go through the releases, you should be able to find it. I tried searching for it, but it didn't come up with the correct release. So I had to scroll through. I think it was on page 4 in the end. So download that version. I just downloaded the portable version. Doesn't mean I have to install it. And yeah, after that, it worked absolutely fine. Created a bootable USB. I had an 8 gig USB stick laying around, so I used that. And then once that was done, it was all systems go. So once the installer is ready, the next step will be getting Kali onto the NUC, keeping it fairly straightforward. So the main point is just to get a clean Linux workstation up and running so that this machine has one clear role in the lab. So once Kali is installed, I can start setting up the workstation properly. So we've got browsers installed, we've got Firefox here and Chromium. I don't need to install BurpSuite because it does come with part of Kali. But if you do want to download BurpSuite, you can get it from their official website. So you can see the link in the description. But yeah, I just loaded up this and made sure that it was up to date. So the version I had was a little bit out of date, one minor version out. So I can update that inside the software. And yeah, so this now means I've got the basic tools I need to inspect traffic and interact with the target. And so this will be the machine that I'm testing from. Strictly speaking, I could run everything on one machine. You know, I could have my vulnerability thing, I'm using WebGoat, I could have that running locally on the workstation, and that would still work. But I want this to feel more like a proper little lab, so I'm going to keep the systems separate. Okay, just butting in, Editor Brian here. A quick bit of context. I realize I'm saying all these bits of software without telling you what they're for. Kali Linux is the operating system that I'm using for the workstation. It's open source Debian-based Linux distribution. It's made for penetration testing, security auditing. It comes with a lot of security tools and configurations already available. So for me, the main benefit here is having that dedicated machine for web security learning. BurpSuite is the main tool that I'll be using to inspect web traffic. In simple terms, it sits between the browser and the web app, kind of like a proxy. So I can see requests and responses properly, and then I can start replaying or modifying them. So Portswigger, the company that makes it, describes the community edition that I'm using as an essential manual toolkit for starting web security testing. So it looks like the proxy, repeater, decoder, sequencer, comparer, all these tools are built into that. And we'll be going through those as we learn. WebGoat is the target that's running on the Raspberry Pi. It's an OWASP training app that's deliberately insecure on purpose, so developers and security learners can practice common web vulnerabilities in a safe and legal environment. So it's designed to explain the vulnerability, let you try it, and then explain mitigation things as well. And if you see WebWolf flash up, I found out that's the companion app that comes with WebGoat. They describe it as a separate web application that simulates the attacker's machine. So some lessons can clearly separate what happens on the vulnerable site from what the attacker is actually doing. In the standard setup, WebGoat runs on port 8080 and WebWolf runs on port 9090. Okay, so yeah, let's get back to it. And let's set up the Pi, the target side. So the Pi 4 is going to run a normal operating system rather than some special cyber image. That's because the target doesn't need to be a hacking machine. It just needs to host something that I can safely test against. Also needs to be vulnerable as well. So here I'm using Raspberry Pi Imager to write Raspberry Pi OS to the SD card and get the Pi ready to boot. I had a few problems with this one as well. For some weird reason, when it gets to the verify stage, as soon as it's finished verifying, it says that it's not right, which is a bit weird. So I tried this a few times. I tried a different card. In the end, I decided I will just go for it, and it seemed to work. So the idea is just to keep the base system simple and then add only what I actually need on top. I'm also keeping the lab gear separate from the rest of the house as much as possible. Part of that is the network. I'm running it through a guest network that I can easily switch on and off whenever I want to. And it's just part of having role separation and not having it interfere with the rest of the home. So no other devices should appear on that network. Once the Pi is online, the next step is getting the target application running. In this case, that means installing Docker and then running WebGoat. You can install Docker through the command line if you want to. So using this command, you can get Docker through the terminal on a Raspberry Pi, or you can download it from their website, whichever one is better for you. Once I've got that, then I need to get WebGoat. So I will download WebGoat directly using the Docker command, which is below. You can also find that on the WebGoat site as well. It will give you that information. So this now gives me a deliberately vulnerable web app on a separate machine, which is exactly what I want for the first web security lab. So once WebGoat is running on the Pi, the next test is to make sure I can actually reach it from the NUC. It's worth pointing out here that the Pi does take a while to start up WebGoat. It also runs WebWolf as well, which is interesting. I'll have to have a look at that. I didn't know what that was. So after a while, it does actually load up on the Pi. And then what I did was I went over to the Kali Linux installation and tried to SSH into the Raspberry Pi. I forgot my username, so I had to go back to the Pi to figure that out, and then back into Kali to SSH into it. Now, you can run it from this command, or this was the command I used in terms of getting it running in the shell. So it will give you a Docker container hash, and that's how you know it's running. But again, even though it gives you that hash, it does take a while for it to start up. So I went straight into Firefox, tried to load it up, didn't work, tried a few times, and I was starting to wonder, did that work? And eventually, yes, it does actually load up in Firefox. And so great. And so then from there, the next step would be to start routing that traffic through Burp. So this is the payoff moment for the whole setup. Opening up Burp and going to the Intercept. You can then launch a browser from there. So I launched the browser, it opens up Chromium. Now everything you do in that Chromium browser will be routed through BurpSuite. So the traffic is no longer just going straight from the browser to the target, it's going through Burp first, which means I can now inspect the requests, look at the headers, look at the parameters, and start getting familiar with what normal web traffic actually looks like. So this is really where the lab becomes useful. At this point, I've got a separate workstation, a separate target, a way to inspect what's moving between them, and it gives me a proper starting point for learning web security in a structured way. Okay, so thanks for sticking around and watching all of that. As you saw, I have everything up and running now. We've got some traffic captured in Burp. We can connect to the deliberately vulnerable web application, so WebGoat. I had a few hiccups along the way. We managed to resolve those. So yeah, I hope that's helped somebody. I know it's helped me to describe it and to understand and go back over it. So that's kind of in my head now. And I want to move on to start learning about attacks and exploits and vulnerabilities, and we can do that with the next video. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do yet. So I also have some other electronic projects as well in the pipeline. Things like D&D props, like interactive things you can do with NFC. There's things I want to build and make, like I've got an idea in my head for a portable escape room with puzzles, not like a defuse the bomb thing that you always seem to get for like escape rooms in a box, but got a little bit more of a storyline to this one. The Japanese fruit machines that you see back there, they've got like a board in there that clicks with relays, and that tells you how many tokens have gone in and come out and when there's a bonus running. So I've got an idea on how to use that for like a real-time web application. So yeah, we've got lots of things coming. Whatever you'd like to see next, let me know in the comments below. If there's anything you don't understand, also leave a comment and I'll try to answer as many questions as I possibly can, as best as I can. And maybe we can even get a community going where we can all help each other learn, which is going to be fantastic, because I know that's what I really want to do. I want to learn new things. But thanks very much for watching. Until the next time to this video, catch you later. Bye-bye. But remember, camera's there, not there. That's my face. That's the camera. Right. Stop it.